right, friends, it is my pleasure to call to order this meeting of the Pere Sustainability Commission for Tuesday, January 9th of 2024. And Betty, if you would go ahead, please, and read the roll.
Alderperson Quigley.
Here.
Commissioner Black. Commissioner Champeau. Commissioner Henry Gillis.
Here.
Commissioner Lawton. Commissioner Lawton, can you hear us? Commissioner Slavin?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
Advisor Drakeseth?
Here.
Betty, did you hear an audible response from Commissioner Lawton?
I did not, though his name does appear as being present.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and count that. And then 1, 2, 3. No, we're missing 2 tonight. Does that sound about right? 2 of the commission members?
I was aware that Commissioner Black was going to be unavailable.
Okay.
I was not aware of anybody else.
All right, that works for me. And then also joining us, we have Corey Groshek. Corey, am I saying your last name the right way? From Greener Bay Compost?
Correct. Groshek.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. And then staff members, we have Scott Thorson and Chase. And I'm probably going to say your last name badly too. Kuffel? Kuffel. So item number 1 on the agenda was to just go ahead and do introductions, not only the 2 new members, but if everybody can just say a little bit about themselves, kind of what got you here, and so that we all know who's who. I will start. I'm John Quigley. I'm in my 3rd year as an alderperson on the west side of De Pere, and so I'm in my 2nd term. I also serve on the Personnel Finance Committee, and I'm enjoying what I do as an alderperson. My involvement here, I was trying to think of kind of what got me started in sustainability, and I think at first it was kind of an academic interest and a curiosity about how people could live kind of more in sync with nature and leave as little impact on the planet as possible. And of course, that was 15 or 20 years ago, and since then it's gotten to be more of a absolute panic about what can we do to alleviate climate change and to make long-term good decisions. So I think the interesting thing for me right now is kind of looking at the very small things that people can do around their home, which makes things more sustainable, recycling and smart choices, and then comparing that to the really big economic things that have to change in terms of transforming the economy and really getting, enough of a forward motion that more people are on board. So that's kind of my interest. If it's okay for introductions, I'm probably just going to go across the list as they appear on my laptop screen, because normally when we're in the room together, you can just flag me down, whoever wants to speak next, or we can go around the room. But I think that's different for everybody. So Betty, would you mind go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. My name is Betty Marovich. I am the administrative assistant for Public Works. I primarily work with the engineering department. I have a background in forest recreation and water resources and a minor in soil science. So I do have a little bit of an outdoorsy tree hugger bit in me. So it is a pretty good fit from my position to also be on part of the Sustainability Commission as the recording secretary.
Okay, thanks very much. And then we'll go next to Commissioner Henry Gillis.
Hi, I have a master's in environmental science and policy. I worked for the Foxwolf Watershed Alliance for a while, where their main focus is protecting our waters. I also, what do? I do a lot of things. I learned about the commission while working at the elections, because I help with that for the city too. And I've been on the commission now for I think 1.5 years, so I'm very passionate about the environment.
Thank you. And Chase, go ahead.
I'm Chase Kufel. I'm the Assistant City Engineer here for the City of De Pere. Got my engineering degree from the University of Platteville, and I emphasize in municipal engineering, transportation engineering, and environmental engineering. With engineering, there's always a sustainable aspect, not only with cost savings and constructing a job on time and under budget, but also the environmental impacts of everything we do. For instance, the construction of our stormwater ponds and stormwater conveyance systems to make sure we're filtering out the suspended solids and pollutants that are in our stormwater before they're discharging into the Fox River or the East River. It's a big part of everything we do here in engineering, so it's always kind of on the tip of our tongues.
And thank you for what you do. Absolutely. And Commissioner Dragseth, am I saying that right?
Yeah. Hi, I am a senior currently at De Pere High School. Last year I started an environmental organization / club at my school, and we really focus on composting and aluminum can recycling. This is my first meeting with the Sustainability Commission, but I'm also Citizens Climate Lobby. And next year when I go off to college, I really hope to double major in both architecture and environmental science to go into a profession of sustainable design.
Thank you much. And Scott, Mr. Thorson.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So Scott Thorson, the Director of Public Works for the City of De Pere. I've been here 18 years now with the city. I actually was part of the Sustainability Commission since they started, and just looking at my notes, it was almost 5 years ago today was our first meeting. So basically, I was the staff liaison for up to this fall. We've actually got Chase now getting involved in it, and I'm actually going to be working with Chase and Betty with the transition as far as making sure Chase takes over the reins and keeps the Sustainability Commission moving. I will always be there for Chase and Betty because, like I said, I've been involved with the Sustainability Commission. Just a little background on what I do with the city. As the director, I oversee the water department, street department, our building maintenance and fleet maintenance, as well as engineering. We're always looking at sustainable stuff throughout the city. As far as things we do, everything from our buildings, putting in LED lighting to basically we have a green roof for those that actually last fall we got to get on top of the roof of City Hall above the actually council chambers. Other things we do, like Chase has mentioned, in engineering wise, we try to do sustainable stuff. Street wise, we've had compressed natural gas engines in our operations, like for example our street sweepers. We had them in our garbage trucks. We always, like I said, are looking for sustainable stuff, things we can do for the operations. In a nutshell, it's kind of pretty much what I do and how I've been involved.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, I've got Commissioner Lawton, please. Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Randall. It looks like your microphone thing is unmuted, so that's a good sign. If you don't mind, just to kind of keep things moving along, Randall, I'm going to go on to the next introduction. But while Nicole Slavin is talking, if you want to keep your microphone on and just test it and shout out and let us know when you get something going there. Next on my screen, I've got Commissioner Slavin, please.
Hey everyone, Nicole Slavin. I joined the commission last year, good friends with my alderperson, Jonathan Hansen, and he got me connected. I am passionate about native plantings, pollinators. I garden a lot, and just naturally, my family, we've always been very green, so this was exciting to become part of the commission. I also serve as vice president on the board of a local nonprofit called Wello, which works to create healthy Brown County community for everybody here, and part of that work is the sustainability piece as well. So it's good to be able to kind of find different ways to help keep our community sustainable and healthy for everyone for years to come. And then also just as a parent, I think I'm very passionate about trying to make the world a better place for my kids and those who come after us. So excited to be part of the commission, and welcome to the new members.
Thank you much. Commissioner Lawton, do you want to try again, and let's do a sound check and see? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still not. Is anybody else hearing anything from him? Randall, it might help if you want to just disconnect and log back into the meeting again. And then a second option for you, you could just dial in with a phone, and you could just be on the audible part of the call that way too. I'm not entirely sure what the technology issue is, but I will leave that to you. We can just say Randall Lawton is a legend in the community, and when we do have audio connections established, we'll give him a chance to say a couple of words about himself. If we can go on, please, Commissioner. Oh, hang on, try that again, Randall.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. There you go.
Wonders never cease. I'm sorry, I have a hearing aid system that goes electronically between my phone and a connect clip and the computer, and it seems to always get screwed up.
No worries. Go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I joined the Sustainability Commission shortly after it started. I think in 2019, maybe in the fall. And I've been kind of interested to watch it progress. It's kind of evolving nicely. We had some people that wanted to conquer the world, and we weren't going to do that. We're going to do it our way. And I think we're moving in that direction kind of nicely. I have a lifelong history of being in the outdoors and appreciation of nature. And that has fed my environmental concerns. Watching the 1972 Clean Water, Clean Air Act. I know that this is old history to all of you, but I was able to see the before and after of that. And you wouldn't believe how significant our progress was during the 1970s after that happened. It tells you we can do something as a society, and we did. I've been involved with several organizations in the state and northeastern Wisconsin. I was on Gathering Waters Board, which is the support for land trusts throughout the state. I just termed off of the Northeastern Wisconsin Land Trust. I've been on that for, I think, 9 years. And they protect special places that are environmentally sensitive and make an impact on our environment. And I've worked on the research council of our industry for, I think it was 6 years, trying to push the technologies to help our industry make its environmental improvements and sustainability improvements, and a lot of other activities. But I'm happy to be with this group and look forward to a productive 2024.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Weber, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me? So I was nominated to be on the commission from Jane Black, and I met her through some events with Clean Water Action Council, which I did an internship with, and I'm currently the administrative assistant. And I'm right now pursuing a bachelor degree at UWGB in environmental policy and planning. And before that, I did a lot of policy work with insurance, and I like it so much that I realized I just wanted to continue doing something that actually mattered. Hearing all of you speak definitely shows that these types of topics people get behind and care about, Whereas insurance, there's not that kind of sentiment really behind it. So, and it led me here, and that's about it right now.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, thanks to everybody for sharing, and welcome to our newest members. And then just for a point of clarification, again, Corey is here to talk about agenda item number 3, and he's here as a guest, but we're always excited to have him with us and appreciate having you here tonight. And we can keep moving ahead. I do need to make a point of order, and this is where, if we were sitting side by side, Betty probably would elbow me and tell me that I took things out of order. I am supposed to, because it's a public meeting, I'm going to read the notice. If anybody at this time would like to make public comment on matters not on the agenda. And again, it's a little different situation today because I think everybody that's here is either invited or commission members, but sometimes at the open meetings we have to do this. Any comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. So asking if there's anybody who hasn't spoken yet or anybody that I haven't recognized, if you want to say anything about the agenda tonight. And for the second time, any comment matters that are not on the agenda. And for the third and final time, all right, we will close that item. And then the next thing I took out of order, we need a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting, which was October 10th of 2023. In fact, I can make the motion, and then I would just need one of you, somebody to turn on your microphone and second the motion, please.
Second.
Thank you. And that was Commissioner Henry Gillis, is that right? And also, this is kind of, thank you, Ms. Slavin.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed with going between council meetings and our Sustainability Commission, I realized that I'm a lot less formal than the mayor is. So he always talks to people about their title and their last name, Commissioner Slavin, Commissioner Weber, and I always go by first name. So if you have a preference one way or another, let me know. But we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have discussion about those minutes from the previous meeting? Anything you want to add or anything that needs to be clarified? And if there's no discussion, we need to vote on that. So if everybody, if you could turn your microphone on, and all those in favor of approving the minutes as is, please say aye.
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 And all those opposed to approving the minutes? Thank you. That motion passes. Next was introduction of the commission members, and that, thank you very much for all that. So now we're on to item number 3, discussion of the Greener Bay compost proposal for composting services. Chase, were you going to start with this?
Yeah, I can kick it off.
Thank you.
As part of our 2024 adopted budget here in De Pere, we do have $10,000 from the Sustainability Commission to create a public-private partnership with an entity for food waste composting. Corey Groshek is here. He's the founder of Greener Bay Compost, and he's provided a proposal which we attached in your packet starting on page 10. It's a 5 or 6 page proposal. I go ahead and I summarize things a little bit down below. As part of his proposal, he's looking to subsidize 50% of what would be the service costs and registration fees for residents to partake in his composting program. Typical costs, if you are running through Greener Bay Compost, is $15 a month for pickup every 4 weeks, $25 a month if you want to do every other week. Through the subsidy, those costs would then reduce down to $7.50 or $12.50 per month. And over a 12-month period, that cover about 66 to 111 residents in the city of De Pere to benefit through the subsidy and work on composting through his programs. So with that, yeah, we've attached the proposal from Corey and Greener Bay Compost for the commission's review and consideration and comments. Corey's here to also answer any questions and go into more detail. In the past, I think it was 2021, maybe December, he came in and spoke a little bit about his program. He can probably give a little bit of a refresher for those who aren't familiar. But yeah, it's about the whole 9 yards.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Corey, if you want to tell us a little bit more if you missed anything significant there.
No, I just wanted to point out, it was actually December of 2022 when I came before the De Pere Sustainability Commission. Really great to be back here after just slightly more than a year, and it's really great to see there was major progress on making a partnership with the city happen. I'm very excited about it. I did want to let everyone know, based on a phone conversation I had with Chase recently about how the city of De Pere actually pays invoices. I did not know that the city has to vote on all the checks to be cleared or the invoices to be paid at the city level. So that might alter how the city would distribute payments related to the subsidized services that we'd be providing under this partnership. But I wanted to let everybody know I'm completely open to being flexible on that. That's not even a big deal. If we have to have a paper check written by the city, and if it's a little bit delayed, not paid, say within a week or so, if it takes more like a month to get a payment, I'm okay with that. We're doing well enough that that's not a big deal. The main thing is just getting the program started as soon as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move ahead with this. Absolutely. And yeah, once is from the city council standpoint, once we approve the initial payment, we should probably be in a routine where we can get a payment to you every 30 days, or it might just be a delay on the first one only, but we got to follow the rules. I do have a couple of questions, but before I do that, I wanted to open it up to the commission members. Is there anybody else that has either comments or questions about the presentation that you've seen here, the information? You can either turn on your microphone and identify yourself, or if you know how to use the little raise your hand icon.
I do have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
With the goals of this partnership, one of them was mentioned that it's to reach out to residents that affording this monthly service might not be accessible. But I also kind of gathered that it might be to extend membership. And so I just had a slight idea for those 22 initial members, if there isn't some kind of outreach going on, that really would not use up a lot of that funding, and might not satisfy trying to get more residents. So I had an idea if maybe those 22 residents initial users could get an incentive for recruiting or something like that. But I'm not sure how your website is set up with signing someone up, if that's possible.
Sure, I can address that. Thank you very much, Rachel. Did you want me to go ahead, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, first thing I wanted to let everyone know is everyone who would be signing up with us as part of this subsidized program would get all the same benefits or access to our rewards programs that all of our regular subscribers get, regardless of where they live. One of the rewards is actually for referring others to us. We actually give out a free gallon-sized bag of our screened compost that you can use in your garden or with your houseplants to anybody who refers somebody to us who actually signs up. So there is that. As far as getting the word out about this, I actually don't think it's going to be too difficult to get people to want to sign up. Once the city would let people know that it's time to sign up, I actually think that we're going to be what I would call massively over-registered, to the point where we're not going to have enough money to actually bring everybody on. So there's going to be a massive backlog. As I think it was Johnny mentioned earlier, or it was Chase actually, with the amount of money that would be left over after we would front load the people who are already a part of our program that are in the city limits, the corporate limits of De Pere, we would have enough money left to bring on something like, I would probably estimate 70 to 80 people. It depends on which plan of ours they sign up for. So as far as how to get the word out to those people, I think if the Sustainability Commission and the city uses, say, social media alone to let people know, and also the website to let people know that this is a thing, that we're basically chopping the cost in half for people that live in the city of De Pere, I think that we're going to have a rush for the gates on opening day. And I think probably within the first couple of days, we're probably going to hit, at least 100 people who want in. But I was actually thinking, based on previous success we've had when we had lower prices back when I ran this operation out of my own backyard. We don't do that anymore for obvious reasons. It's too big. But when we did that and I could charge less, we had a lot of interest for people in that $10 to $15 a month range for an every other week pickup. So if with this program, if we can cut the cost down to $750 or $1250 a month for our services, I think you're going to have a lot of people that may have been sitting on the fence, for lack of a better term, wanting to take advantage of this. So social media, we're already great at it. We've got over 1,000 followers ourselves on both Facebook and Instagram, and we actually pick up most of our subscribers from Facebook. We do have a lot of interest from people on Instagram too, but I'd say Facebook by far is the most popular method for people to find out about us, I guess, other than maybe just a Google search. So I think the biggest and best thing the city of De Pere could do once this thing would be ready to go and we have the actual web page set up would be for the city to just make an official announcement, let everyone know that the site's going to go live as of a certain date and time, and then just watch what happens. I'm going to be watching in real time to see how many registrations come through, and it might be shocking to me. I might be very busy over the next couple of days. So what I do is I look at the top, say 100 that come in, so they're going to be given priority, and I'd go through that list, compare it to the corporate limits of De Pere map to make sure these people are actually in De Pere. If they're not, I would let them down nicely, but I'd let them know they're still able to sign up with us. It's just that the city of De Pere can't help pay for those services. As for everybody else who would be deemed eligible, I would be reaching out to them in the order in which their registrations came in to extend an official invitation to sign up, and then they'd have a certain amount of time to actually sign up. That's actually the system we're using right now without any government involvement, and it's been working really well. It allows us to bring people in, you know, at our own pace. For example, I don't know how many commissioners know this. I know Emily knows this because she's actually a subscriber of ours, but we only come through De Pere right now once every other week. So, for example, on one week, we're actually more dedicated to other parts of our service area, but then that one weekend, every other week, we're spending most of our time in the De Pere Ledgeview type area. So there could be a delay if somebody doesn't get in right away. They might have to wait another 2 weeks to get in if they miss the deadline to get into the whatever the upcoming route would be. So, but I expect we're going to have a rush for the gates when it starts. I don't think we're going to have an issue with people finding out about the program or wanting to be interested, as long as De Pere puts it out there that it exists. And we're going to do our part. Like I said in the proposal, we're going to do everything we can do to make sure people know it's going live. And I do think our existing De Pere residents that are signed up are going to let all of their friends who are in De Pere know. So, like I said, if any of them have been on the fence, maybe they thought it was a little expensive before, maybe they were trying to choose between this and Netflix, maybe this will make it easier to do both.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in, first of all, with the 2-week intervals, Corey, it makes sense to me that if it takes you some time to scale up, I think people would, be understanding, as long as they're paying for what the service they're receiving. There might be a little bit of a backlog, and I really hope you're right that we get a big rush to the door. And just to kind of clarify for Rachel, the intention always was, through the De Pere City website, through social media, and then depending on how quickly the initial sign up takes hold, then the thought was the Sustainability Commission could come back and do other things to encourage people to sign up. In the past, we've been at the De Pere Farmers Market, and like you said, I think the referral program is an excellent idea. If it's taking a while to catch on, we can certainly look, brainstorm as many of those ideas as we can, and let's spend all of that money. And then kind of along those same lines, speaking of spend all the money, Corey, there was something in your proposal that I gotta go back to your page numbers here so I can help you find it. It would be ideal if the city can commit to, or if the city council can budget to $10,000 for the second year of the program. And of course, that needs to go through our budget cycle. So Chase, have you and Corey talked about that part of things, or is that something that's still in the works?
We've talked a little bit about long-term, but yeah, right now the primary focus is getting this proposal through and getting this program up and running. We can work through the budgeting process once we get our feet on the ground. But yeah,
okay.
And again, 2024.
Understood. And I guess, I hope I'm saying this right, if I'm reflecting the spirit of the other Sustainability Commission members, but our hope is that this will be an ongoing thing and we would grow it. The issue is that we can't always commit, or we can never commit what the city council, we can't tell them in advance what to do. So each time we have to bring it up to the council in our annual budget. And again, if we fill up that 10,000, if we can move along more quickly than that and expand it eventually, that would be great too. Any other questions or comments about the proposal? Oh, go ahead, Scott. I think he's got his hand up in the air virtually.
Yeah, if I could just add to the commission, the whatever the commission recommends, it has to go through city council for approval. And I'm glad Alderperson Quigley brought up. There's several bullet points in there. I think one we may want to really the intent was for Corey to present this, the commission to digest it. I think there's some things we may want our city attorney to review because there are some commitments in there on the proposal. I'm not sure the council may feel comfortable going forward with. I think we need to have our city attorney review it, and I would advise that you potentially, bring this back at the February meeting, because if I understand this correctly in the proposal, we want to implement it by June, of this year. So, like I said, I think it's a great start on it. It's kind of first time I read through it tonight, and I apologize for that. But I think there's some additional review on the city side we need to do to make sure there's no legal issues or any other things that the council might be concerned with.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
the intent, is the commission here has the first crack at comments. We do need to partner with our legal team to get their thoughts. And yeah, it'll be a future meeting where we can finally consider and approve this as a formal proposal before it goes to common council.
And kind of along those lines, I do have some questions. Corey, it might help if your next version of the proposal, if you can number the bullet points, because I'm going to ask you about something that's on page 4 of your proposal, and it's the 6th bullet point down from the top. Give you a minute to find that one, but it talks about if someone quits for a day, if they're vacation or if they're out of the state of Wisconsin, that they would have to re-register or go back into the list again. Can you tell me how that process might work?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example. This actually happens a lot this time of year. We have a lot of people, they're what you might call snowbirds. They leave the state. The way we traditionally handle that with our regular everyday subscribers is if they leave, and some of them choose not to actually leave, they just keep their service running, but other ones would just prefer to, you might call it cancel, you call it suspend, whatever word you'd like to use. But basically, when they take leave of the service, we remove them from our leaderboard where we keep track of like the compost points and things they've earned towards earning compost from us for the material they provided. So for all intents and purposes, they're not technically a subscriber anymore once they cease to be a paying customer, but they can come back. Generally, if that happened with a regular subscriber, all they'd have to do is let me know they want to come back, and then I'd bring them back in, because we always prioritize our old subscribers. They're some of the biggest advocates for what we do, and we want them to come back. And we don't want them to jump through a lot of hoops. The one issue I foresaw with this public-private partnership, though, is that this is going to be a lot more competitive, because there's a set amount of money that we can spend on this, and so basically it's first come first serve. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we get the program going in June, but then you have somebody who's been with the program for 6 months. It gets to be about Christmas time, but then they're going to leave Wisconsin and go to Flagstaff, Arizona for the next 2 months. For that person to stay a part of the program and basically not go to the end of the line, my take on it was they'd have to keep the service running. I wouldn't prefer that, though, because this is the peers' money. It's different when it's their own money.
Sure.
I would prefer that person basically go to the back of the line and that service ends, and then somebody else gets a shot to take a spot if there's enough money left over in the overall pool of money to bring them on for an entire year. To make sure this is fair to everyone, part of my proposal was that if there's not enough money left over, say out of the whole $10,000 to cover at least an entire year's worth of service for that person that's registering, then we don't bring them on, because the last thing I'd want is somebody to sign up expecting they've got enough money for an entire year and then be told, there's only enough to cover 6 months, but then you're on the hook for the whole cost for the other 6. I think that would rub people the wrong way. So I think I mentioned some dollar amounts in there, or there'd be a threshold where if there's not that much money, basically we would just stop onboarding people, at least until more money is made available, say for 2025. If this money rolls over, well, then we can, we'll get a bigger pool of money we can reapply. But
Yep.
yeah, as far as re-registering, the reason I'd say we'd want them to re-register for this program if they leave, like let's say they go to Flagstaff, Arizona, but then they come back 2 months later, the reason they'd have to re-register is so that they get put back on the list so we can then again process them in the order in which they're received. I think that's kind of creates, I don't want to say artificial scarcity, it's real scarcity. If you leave the program and you're, it's not fair to other people who might want to get in. If you're gone, you're not even in Wisconsin anymore, and the city of De Pere is paying for half your service and you're not even here contributing. So I'd prefer it's actually people who are here and using the service. So unfortunately, that means people who are snowbirds, they might not be the best fit for this. And that may be something I would have to discuss with people when they sign up. If they let me know, hey, we want to sign up, but we're going to leave for Florida for 3 months, I might ask them, are you sure, you want to do this? Because if you leave, you're going to go to the end of the line. You might not be able to come back in. Although I would offer them the chance to come in at full price. They always have the opportunity to do that. And they
Sure.
might do that. But I don't want to play favorites with anybody and say you get to go back to the front of the line just because you were with us before. I think we're going to have enough demand for it that we can just go from the top of the list down and find people to
Yep.
take their place
Okay,
if
so
they leave.
yeah, and that makes more sense to me. And the idea of the word vacation in there, with this being a 2-week interval, that makes a lot more sense now. And I see a couple of hands that are raised. First of all, Scott, I want to just make sure I'm understanding the technology. So I don't know if you have your hand raised from the previous question. If you want to just turn on your mic and chime in. I'm not the meeting host, so I don't know if I can mark that you've already been called
Yeah.
on.
No, I have no more. I apologize. I thought it would go off when I talk, but I will unlower my hand.
Betty, is that something you can do as the host? Oh, I think she just did. And then Rachel, did you have a comment or a question? Go right ahead.
Yeah, based on the vacation circumstance, it seems like the way you have it thought out so far is it would be on a person by person basis that you'd maybe discuss with them. Maybe you can just make a disclaimer on the program, must be a De Pere resident for such and such amount of the year or something, make it easy. So then they don't sign up and say, well, I didn't know I couldn't sign up for this based on that I leave for a partial of the year or something like that.
I should
Yeah,
point out, I would never reject somebody just because they're, say, only in De Pere 6 months out of the year, but I might caution them that if they were to leave, because this is competitive and there'd be a big list of people wanting to come in, that if you leave, that money could be made available for someone else and it may not be there to subsidize your service when you come back from vacation. So just, I'd let them know. Just obviously, if the demand wasn't as high as I think it's going to be, then I could look into that further. But I think that there's going to be enough that we're just going to end up moving on to the next person that's on the list if somebody takes leave of the service.
And for discussion purposes, I appreciate both of those comments, Rachel and Corey. I guess my instinct is I would like to reward loyalty somehow. And so for the person who's a snowbird, if there's some way we can either make a placeholder, I get it. We don't want to be subsidizing with city money for 6 months that they're not using the service. But maybe if there's a way that they can say, okay, our intention is to come back in May, if they can pay for the first payment after that. But we don't have to decide that here tonight. I would like that to be kind of something that we talk about going forward. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the vacation or the snowbird clause or anything about that? Or again, about this program in general? Because we do want to go forward with it, absolutely. I'm looking for raised hands either on your cameras or virtually. And then Corey, one of my other questions was, there was an initial proposal, and I think it came to the city council. Randall, is that you trying to get my attention?
Just a quick statement. The
Jump in there.
IRS or the Wisconsin Revenue Service forces a decision on whether you're a Wisconsin resident or not. If for those snowbirds that go near 6 months, they have to be here. They have to be gone more than 6 months to be Florida residents, for instance. So if you're looking for a standard, that one would be it.
And I think that makes sense. But the idea that if somebody's a 6 month resident in De Pere, or even if they're up here 7 months, they're a little more than 50%. The issue is, what is the city paying for those 5 months that person chooses to be out of town, or even if it's 3 months, whatever that interval is. So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
No disagreement with that at all. It's
Okay.
kind of a different thing, but you do have a standard.
Sure. Okay.
About
Any
right.
other?
By the way, John, I was going to
Yep, go
add
ahead.
if what happens a lot of the times is when our regular subscribers leave for just a few months, they end up coming back. And like I said, we just take them back. So what I would do is, let's say there isn't enough money left over in the DPIR budget for this to bring them on. I would just kindly let them know you're more than welcome to come back in, but the city of DPIR just won't be able to subsidize that until, let's say, more money is made available. And I could tell
Sure.
them I'd let you know if that happens, like let's say 2025 comes January 1st, boom, there's more money there, something like that. I could let them know. But I suspect you might have a couple people that would be willing to pay full price to come back in if it meant that they would be one of those existing people who gets resubsidized when more money becomes available. And that would be one of the ways where you could reward loyalty. Like if that happened, you could say they'll be at the top of the list to be resubsidized as soon as more money becomes available because they're
Yep.
considered an existing subscriber at that point. And that kind of ties into the part of my proposal where I mentioned that we'd like to front load all the existing residents of the pier. That's the early adopters they already live within the city limits and they were supporting us from our early days. In a lot of cases, some of them have actually been with us for almost 2.5 years at this point. And so I wanted to make sure they get in first because they'll be the biggest cheerleaders for telling everybody else about this program. I'm sure telling all their neighbors. And I think we should take advantage of that.
Agreed. Yep.
And by the way, about those bullet points, I could actually create, it's not a problem at all. I can just go into Microsoft Word and change the bullet points to the numbers. If anybody wants me to send a copy of that over, that's easy to do.
Well, if it's going to be on the agenda again, because we do get this fairly often where there's 3 or 4 pages of text, and sometimes it's hard to get to the one line you want to talk about.
Sure.
And speaking of which, there was an earlier proposal, and I think it was the version that came to the city council, and you suggested that with the $10,000 allocation, that there would be money up front to set up a website specific to Pier. Is that figure still in there? Is there I think it was $2,000?
Oh, what Scott and I talked about was, how involved did DPIR actually want to be? What I ultimately settled on is we'd like the city to just be responsible for paying for half the cost of the services for these people, and we would do everything else. So
Okay.
I'm not setting aside any money, like say $2,000 or anything to cover anything else. Basically, every penny of the $10,000 would be used to cover for paying for half the service for the
Yep.
eligible residents up to the point that we can cover them. So this is
Okay.
basically us doing everything other than DPIR and the Sustainability Commission helping to promote the program, driving people to our website that we would host. By the way, if anybody's ever wondering what this registration site would look like, they can go to our website, gbcompost.com /residential to kind of see that. If you click register now there, you'll actually see how the form already looks. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what we'd be doing for DPIR, but it would be a DPIR specific page that the city could be driving people to. And so there'll be a separate registration form. So it's separate from the regular registration. So when it comes in, we know it's through your program and not our regular program.
Yep. Okay.
But
All right.
no
Thank
extra
you.
money for that. Everything's just all included.
Right. And again, we want to see you be successful. So I'm not asking you to nickel and dime where you're losing money on a transaction, but I just want to be clear where the money is going. Good. I'm getting ready to move on to another agenda item, and we want to thank Corey for his time. Again, I'm going to do one more call though. Anybody that's got questions, just turn on your microphone or say something. All right. I'm not being overwhelmed with information.
All right.
Again, thanks Corey, and thanks everybody for your input on this. Go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, so I'll work in the background with Corey and our administrative team here at the city to get the verbiage nailed down for this public-private partnership. The goal is to take it back to the Sustainability Commission in its final form, then hopefully in February or March, depending on our legal team's availability for final approval or consideration of approval before it goes to Common Council.
Okay, very good. And
by the way, John,
again,
before you move on, I wanted to add, I mentioned earlier trying to get this going as soon as possible. The reason I mentioned that is because I know that budget time comes up for Scott's department in July. That's when they started discussing the budget for this program. I wanted to see if there's any way if we could make this happen. So, if we don't have to wait till June, if we can get it going, say April, May, even if we can at least get a month or two of some data under our belts, I think that would make it a much easier sell for everybody to say, hey, we already diverted this amount of food waste and other organics from the landfill in just 2 months. Imagine what we could do if we reauthorize this for another year. kind of argument. So I would love to get some data, even if it's just a month or two of data before it goes back into more budget discussions for 2025. So
Sure.
June would be
Thank
okay.
you.
If we can't get it going until June, I completely understand. It's government business. It takes time. But I'll
That
work with
makes sense.
Chase on the whole legal thing and Scott with all the legal issues and whatnot. If anybody from Chase's department or legal needs to talk to me, I'll talk to whoever I need to.
I'll be your
Okay,
point
I
of
appreciate
contact.
that. Yep. And then one last thing is we're talking about the snowbirds and whether they're in or out. I think this is really just going to be a startup issue, is that once we get through a year or two of data and we know how many are opting out for just a couple of months, then we can have a good workaround in place, or we'll address it the way that we need to. But again, Corey, thanks for everything tonight, and we'll be in touch. We'll keep working on it. Excellent.
Thank you,
And then
everybody.
my next question was either for Betty or for, I don't know who from the city staff. In terms of this agenda item, we don't need to vote anything up or down. This was just meant to be a discussion item tonight. I see Chase is nodding his head.
Yes,
Scott might
that
be
is
nodding.
correct. It's just a discussion item tonight. We'll bring it back in the future for action.
Okay, cool beans. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that on a public meeting. Okay, then moving on, item number 4 on the agenda, discuss next steps for the City of De Pere Sustainability Commission Renewable Energy Work Plan.
All right. Kind of been talking to Hope through Alderperson Hanson. City of Green Bay recently approved their, what's it called? Clean Energy Green Bay Plan. Included with your memo, I have attached both the 2024 Sustainability Commission's work plan and then the Green Bay Green Energy Plan as attachments for your consideration. The Green Bay Plan is 100 or so page documents. This is just the executive summary of everything they did. But Hope was looking to discuss creating a similar plan for the city of De Pere. Doing some background research out of this before we brought it to the commission. I talked with the Sustainability Commissioner liaison for Green Bay, just to get some figures on the amount of time and money it took to create their plan. And she provided everything I included in the background section. They worked with local organizations like UWGB, Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, and the Sustainability Commission themselves. And between them and city staff, about 1,000 hours were contributed in creating this report. They received a grant from the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin Office of Energy Innovation, OEI. That grant provided $87,000 to help create this plan and roadmap, really is what it is moving forward. Those funds were then used to hire a consultant to then do the background research and set baselines and set goals for the city moving forward for energy use and consumption. In total, between the grant they received of $87,000 and the city contributions, $143,000 was spent in creating this report. Some of that is staff time, like the resiliency coordinator's labor is included as a cost, but that's 400 hours of her time. That was an in-kind contribution on the city's behalf. So just wanted to provide some background on what the city of Green Bay did. Hope wanted to discuss creating a program of our own moving forward. This would have to be something we'd want to budget for. Obviously, we don't have the budget to take this on for this year, but it'd be something we'd have to consider for a future year moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that. And we can talk about the proposal. Hope, since you're the one that brought this forward, is there anything else you wanted to add with Chase's comments there, with what we have in front of us?
Yeah, definitely. So like I mentioned before, because I'm on Citizens Climate Lobby, I work with people that are on the Green Bay Commission as well. So they kind of introduced me to the idea. I also have been talking to some people on Wisconsin Conservation Voters, which helps cities like ours implement plans like this. Some of just the reasons why I thought it was really important that we kind of move forward with this is because De Pere is having a lot of growth recently. Like we're seeing the Malva Center, they're talking about building a new high school, like the Shopco project, a lot of just new apartment complexes and buildings are coming in. So I feel like if our city is growing this much, then we might as well do it in a more sustainable way. And if we're going to be building all these new buildings anyway, then we should have some more codes up to make sure that they are all environmentally friendly. I also think that there's a lot of grants out there currently, like especially with the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think that we should really take advantage of these. That grant is open until I think 2032, so there is a while of time we have, but I do think that with all the urbanization that's going on in De Pere currently, I think we should definitely get started on this sooner than later. But I do have a lot of connections with other people, so if we needed any guidance, I would definitely be able to help with that.
Fantastic. All right, thanks. Go ahead, Rachel, you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, so one of the items, the work plan that was included that has already been adopted, it looks as though Green Bay's energy plan is a result of their own work plan. So I'm wondering if where is the commission currently at with our own work plan to be able to implement something like this? You know, if it's a budgetary issue, are we trying to emulate what Green Bay did as far as get a grant and hire out? Is that the main proposal? Or can we work with what we've already got in the work plan to try to get to something similar?
Does anybody want to take that one? I can think of a couple possible answers to that. It's been a work in progress for a long while, and the work plan that you see has been in front of our city council. I think a sticking point for a long time has been what is our baseline level so that we can set some goals and we can know how to get future growth. And so seeing this, this is kind of tangible how to get to that, which is good and helpful, I think. Scott, go ahead if you want to add something to that as well.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on it. This is some of the things I'm working with Chase to get them up and running. So Chase incorporated in the agenda packet for the commissioners, the Sustainability Commission work plan that the commission approved, and it was ultimately approved by council. It's pretty much modeled somewhat after off of Green Bay. I had worked with Green Bay sustainability when we came up with it, and so they're a step ahead of it. I mean, their work plan is similar to this. And if you look at I believe it's the third bullet point, and it talks about conduct research and compile a white paper report that outlines the various considerations toward transitioning to carbon neutrality that includes but is not limited, and it goes down to these various items. So Scott, that is what Green Bay actually did, and then and getting a grant and hiring a consultant to do. So I mean, that's really what this commission will have to do next. We're going to have to hire somebody to do it, and it's very costly. I know communities like Eau Claire and other larger communities, it's 100, 150,000, and some got grants, some just funded it. So that's really the next step that the commission's got to work to create that white paper, which is really hiring somebody to do it and do what Green Bay did.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other comments or suggestions with this document? I think it's us as a commission, we have to decide what we're going to do next. Go ahead, Randall.
It's a pretty complex plan, and there are so many moving parts and unknowns within it that we just have to understand that you kind of take this a bite at a time and digest it and find out what else has changed and what we learn and this kind of thing. So it's not going to be easy. You can set up a plan very easily, a consultant operation, but the unknowns are tremendous. And I think it's one of our jobs as a commission is to see through some of those challenges and figure out what's right for our community and where we push the resources that we can gather. And it's also important that we allow the council and the mayor and the staff to understand, how a community that we want, what we want De Pere to be, a thriving community. And these are the things that thriving communities do. And what are those principles? And I think we'll get through that. Scott and I have talked about this in the past. It'll be a good effort, but it won't happen overnight.
And I appreciate those comments, absolutely. And I'll just check here with my raised hands. Go ahead, Hope.
Yeah, so I was just kind of wondering more about like the timeline and how long we think it might take. I know you mentioned how we don't really have the funds as of currently, but even if we couldn't really start implementing all this stuff until next year, are there steps we could take this year to just kind of get things moving along? Because I know we passed that like work plan or resolution like a few years ago, and I feel like we haven't really made a ton of strides recently. And I just wanted to know, like, is there anything immediate we could do, like they talked about like having the baseline assessment and researching different types of renewable energy. Like, is there anything we can start now?
Yeah, and I think in the interest of discussion, I would throw that back to all the commission members. And for those of you that are kind of following along on the agenda packet, it's pages 18 and 19 is the bullet points that Scott was referring to. We do have to take small bites. So as individuals or as a group, what of that long list of things should we be working on? Is the baseline still a first item, or we got to get things in front of that because we need fundraising in order to, or we need funding in order to get somebody that's going to help with that sort of thing. Rachel, go ahead.
For in the agenda where the work plan was passed, there was some mention about the peer employees taking on some of the task of compiling research from WPS, things like that. But it was mentioned that maybe the commission would have to take hold of some of the tasks. And then there was also something about trying to establish a baseline with that data that's available, as well as with John Arndt at GB, and that there was someone on the commission at that time that maybe had been reaching out to him or something.
Yep, I'm not sure if I remember who that was, but you're correct in quite a few of those things in terms of the volunteer hours, and there were people that were interested. Sometimes the limiting factor is the city staff and how many hours they can dedicate to this with their other responsibilities. Scott or Chase, does anybody want to address that? Go ahead, Scott.
Sure. So for the newcomers on here and some of the, the other commission members that have been on it, one of the challenges we have is as the commission, there's a lot of great ideas and everything that come from it. And we only have so many resources. One of the things is, staff can assist, but are not taking on the bulk of the projects because we just don't have the staffing resources to do them. And what it's led to, basically, the commission needs to take on a project here or there that they take ownership of and run with it. An example, great example is one I think Chase has got an update, the Clean Air Initiative. I mean, it took commissioners, that put in a lot of hours to implement that program. So you're right, staff back then talked about baseline and stuff like that, but it's a very, very huge task. And, we looked into it, started it, but we weren't able to accomplish a move due to other staffing requirements. So what is really going to come down to, the commission's really got to take the lead and do a lot of it. And I know there's concerns in the past with commissioners, they, have full-time jobs, they have other things. This is kind of a volunteer. We totally get it, because we all work, and there's, you got limited resources and what you can do. So a task like this, for example, you're going to have to hire somebody to do it. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it, because the amount of time and effort, and Green Bay saw the same with it, and then they got the grant to do it. And it really, that's what it's going to take, the next step, to basically someone to come in to look at our city, come up with recommendations, establish the baselines, all that sort of thing. And then when that gets, adopted, then you take that to the next step as part of the work plan. So the timeline, I hate to say it, it's going to take time, because really the first part of it is, to acquire the funding to pursue it. And once the funding's there, then you have to go out and solicit proposals and everything to get a grant. I believe Green Bay's process a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I mean, it's been quite some time. So it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to be patient on this because it's a very large process and a large project to take hold of. I don't know if that clarifies that or answers some of the questions on timeline and where we need to go.
I think in one way it answers questions, but it still leaves that uncertainty. I see Chase had asked to speak, so go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, I can fill in a little bit more on the timeline. They received their grant in 2021 as part of the PSC OES program. They then started their project on September 30th of 2022. I'm assuming in between the award and this project start, they went out for the consultants portion, got proposals, and then awarded the project to Slipstream on their behalf. With their consultant, their project then ended in December of 2023. So we're talking, looks like 2 full calendar years on their end of things to get it from grant award to report published and posted. Another thing to consider is on Green Bay staff, they have a full-time entity who just works on resiliency and sustainability. So they have a lot more resources they can allocate to put toward their time.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, Randall, go ahead.
Just one thing, we are without authority and power, but we are not without influence. And our primary job is to influence the people that do have the ability to do these things.
Yep, agreed. And I kind of am impressed, and I guess take a little encouragement from seeing this report, is if we can build the model after what we've seen the city of Green Bay do, I'm all for that. What I would like to suggest is if we can maybe get a subgroup the same way that we had with the Clean Air Initiative. If we can get 2 or 3 people together and say, let's start to identify that funding. Hope, if you know some things about grant opportunities or would be willing to jump in, and again, anybody that wants to share their enthusiasm and their energy, I still think getting that baseline is a next good step for us. And then again, I don't know if that happens before the white paper or after, or if that's all part of the same process that's going to come through a consultant. But I do feel like there's a sense of urgency, and like I said, I appreciate seeing this information from the city of Green Bay. Go ahead, Rachel.
I think you might have kind of said what I was thinking, that maybe the commission's next step is to identify what funding possibilities are out there and maybe present that then to the commission, because there are still OEI grants available. And to me, that seems like maybe the next possible step that is within our means.
Okay. Yep. And I appreciate that. And as you're new here, I just want to let you know a couple things about that. When you say the commission needs to do this, we kind of, we're looking around the room. It's one of us has to step up on it. So, I think a subgroup or getting a couple people together is the way to do it. And then the other thing I would like to let people know about is that because this is a public entity and we're a subgroup of the city of De Pere, we have to be careful that not too many commissioners meet together at the same time. So with the Clean Air Initiative, it worked if we would have 2 or 3 people that were having private conversations. But if we get too many of us involved, then it becomes an issue of public meeting and records and all that sort of stuff like that. So again, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I would like to help in any way to identify the funding or to be involved in that process too. Emily, go ahead.
So I guess I'm a little confused because this sounds like another huge project that we're going to be moving on, and this is the first time that I feel like I missed something almost. Like I'm really excited we have new commissioners, but it feels like the new commissioners came on with a plan that they are pushing a certain way, and we had been discussing totally different things in October. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. I just need, I guess, more information because I'm feeling very lost.
Yep, and I can understand that sentiment, and I think that goes along with maybe it was Randall's previous comment, is that we can influence people when we get things moving in a certain direction. And the other fear with a commission like this is that if we get pulled in too many different directions, then it's going to be more difficult to focus on some of the initiatives that we're working on right now. So I'm pretty sure there's a balance in the middle there, but I certainly don't know all of the answers. Hope, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of the reason why I was bringing it up is because we did have like the resolution made before, and so it was made before, and I feel like just Green Bay making theirs official kind of brought me being like, well, we already have one started, we might as well just kind of keep pushing like this. And I know it's going to be a super long process, so we might as well kind of start it now and kind of see where things going, because like everyone said, it's not going to happen overnight. So just kind of making baby steps and moving forward. Also about the subgroup, I would love to be part of that subgroup if anyone else in the commission was interested, just to kind of like find more information about this, find where we can be headed. We don't need to make any huge rash decisions right now, but just kind of like learning more about it and kind of diving deeper.
Okay. And yeah, again, anything that we do would come back to the full Sustainability Commission and then would have to go to the city council, but let's get started on those steps. Nicole, go ahead.
I was just going to echo with what Commissioner Henry Gillis said, is that is there more to this? Is there more background on this I could get somewhere? I just kind of feel like, does everybody understand what this is already? Or is this something I should have already read up on? And again, these are just kind of not answerable questions for everybody all at the same time. But I would love to do more research, or I feel like before I can accurately comment on or like participate in or join a subgroup, I just feel like there's more background I need to understand. And maybe that's, maybe it's just in this and reading it through a few more times. But anyway, I just feel like a base level understanding of what this exactly is, what it entails, what the steps are, all of that. I would want a little more info before I'd be able to accurately say,
Understood.
hey, yes. Yeah.
Yep. And for the group, I can give some of the notes and things that happened in previous meetings. I guess my takeaway from this is that we had a previous commissioner that was pushing very hard for this kind of initiative. And we got it in front of the council and they said, yes, we should do something. And in order to get the council on board, I feel like some of the language is a little bit vague that says, yes, we should do something, but it didn't really commit the council to anything. So, this needs to come back on another Sustainability Commission agenda, and then we can get into the fine points and start working ahead with the subgroup, which I think would be a good thing. Scott, go ahead, please.
And just to add what Alderperson Quigley brought up, let me try to figure out how to say this. Some of the frustrations the former commissioner that Alderperson Quigley is referring to, that person wasn't seeing enough action happening right now. With the government, and this is a government type commission, things take time. Things don't happen overnight. And I think there's a lot of great ideas, I've heard, and I've been on this since this commission started, and things are going to take time. And I don't want our new commissioners, this is their first meeting, to get frustrated on it. I mean, they're all things we got to work towards, and I don't want them to get discouraged with what our existing commissioners are saying. It's just that we got to understand it's, with the resources and everything, it's going to take time. Don't get discouraged. I think we all have the same goals in mind, to have sustainable initiatives and practices within the city, because some of the things just don't happen overnight.
Yep. Thank you for that. And Chase, go ahead.
Yeah, and to build upon that, the intent is just to discuss today, even if it's bringing the commission up to speed for those new members. We're not asking for any action as part of this item. And with Green Bay just passing their plan in December, it is good to bring to the commission's attention what is out there and what just happened just north of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then Rachel, I see that your hand is up, but before we go to that, I would be willing to do kind of a summary for the next Sustainability Commission meeting. I've been involved for about 1.5 years or pushing 2 years. So what we've talked about in the past and kind of how we got to that proposal that you see, and maybe at the next meeting, we can talk about identifying who's going to be on that subgroup and get moving forward. And again, I hope I heard you before. So if you and I can have a communication between now and then, I would like to do some research and let's get something done, please. Rachel, you had your hand up a moment ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just answered that, because as a new member, I don't know what initiatives are currently out there. And as time permits, I've been going through past agendas. So as far as the work plan that was attached in this agenda, I kind of have to operate under the assumption that it is a working document that everyone is continually working towards currently. So that's
Right.
where my perspective is.
Okay, and again, like I said, my intention is we'll kind of regroup and address this again at the next meeting, which might help to clarify further. Randall, did you have another comment or something else?
A couple of years ago, we had some initiatives, and there was absolutely no funds to support anything, and we finally kind of had to push the council about, you know, if we're in business to be a commission and you want us to do something, you can't expect us to do anything and everything. And they finally thought about that and said, okay, we'll throw you a bone here and there, and they've done that because we only had a couple of opportunities, but it can get done, but we have to take, that's our influence side of things, as opposed to the authority to do it.
Fantastic. And Scott, go ahead.
And then just build on what Randall brought up is this is the first year since this commission started. In our 2024 budget, we actually have a sustainability commission program. And to build on what Randall was talking about, there was never any funds to actually do some of the projects. A great example is this greener compost. We didn't have the funding before, but because the mayor sat down with previous commissioners and Alderperson Quigley and the city administrator, what can we do to address the concerns like Randall brought up? And, that's when they created that. So, I mean, there's a great example is, there's a great program, that, Corey brought up that the council is willing to fund. The great sustainable initiative. I hate to say it, we're going to be leaders in this. There's very few communities in the country that are doing it. And kudos for Corey to bring it up. And you're going to probably see other communities follow, maybe Green Bay, for example. We're not always going to be way ahead of the game, like, say, for example, this work plan, where they just adopted it that we've been talking about. There are other little things that don't cost as much that I always say baby steps. They're a sustainable practice we work towards. So, I mean, we're moving in the right direction. It's just going to take time.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm getting ready to move ahead to the next agenda item, partly because I have another meeting to get to at 7:30. Does anybody have anything else on the renewable energy work plan that we've been talking about? Because we're going to, in a little bit, we're going to get to future agenda items, and I think we're pretty solid that that's where that's going next. So again, thanks everybody for your comments and your information, and we're taking some of those baby steps here tonight. And Scott, when you said earlier something about the government moves slowly, we have to remember we are a function of or an arm of the government. So it's kind of up to us to move things ahead. And, you guys are doing great stuff. I appreciate it. Let's go on to number 5 on the agenda, which is the Clean Air Initiative update. Chase, did you want to take this one first?
Sure. Just wanted to give the commission the opportunity to, again, discuss the Clean Air Initiative, any progress that's been made with the schools out there. Commissioner Janie Black has provided a newsletter for the commission's review. We did get notes from Commissioner Weber about updating the verbiage to reflect vehicles idling while queued for student pickup or parked in parking lots. The next steps we'll need from the commission would be to determine how to treat this newsletter. Commissioner Black recommended that the city send out the newsletter on the commission's behalf to the superintendents for consideration prior to then sending it to the individual principals or parent-teacher organizations for their consideration. So with that, I'll open it up to the commission for updates.
Comments, thoughts, questions? Anybody go ahead. Okay. I don't know if I know all of, Rachel, you had some suggestions or some changes to the language. I was a little concerned about the, at the beginning, I'm clicking between screens here and trying to get back to where I made some notes to myself, and now I got to make sense of the notes. I just feel a little bit the language in there that the second paragraph that says we've been checking up on idling at various schools and notice that there's still a lot of idling. To me, for a newsletter, the language seems a little bit vague, and I would like either a little more precision or I don't want to accuse people of saying you're not doing enough, because I feel like we're doing anything we can to get, even if we get 10 people to shut their cars off, it's a start. So I would guess like to finesse that language a little bit more, but I'm afraid I don't have a draft, or I don't have a better suggestion for that. I do like the idea of getting this out into as many hands as possible. That makes sense to me. Again, any thoughts about that language in particular, or anything else on the newsletter? Going once. See, now you're all worried about getting me to my meeting at 7:30, so now nobody's saying anything. And there's another thing in the opening phrase there. I'm a little bit getting caught up here. The initiative was implemented at the beginning of the school year. We're asking drivers to turn off their engines when waiting for more than 10 seconds. I think it would be helpful to put a phrase in there about weather permitting, because if we're going to send this out in the middle of winter and we're going to say you need to shut your car off, I think there's kind of a moderating thing, is that we don't want to be the idling police, but rather we want to say, we're making suggestions and we're trying to encourage good behavior without calling them out for something that I might perceive as bad behavior, but I don't want to be too judgy of the people that we're sending this out to.
I
So
believe
with
the
that in mind,
suggestion Janie usually has with that is that there's like a winter rule where you can, you turn your car on for a minute or two and then you turn it off again for 5 minutes or whatever to keep it rolling. So maybe it's just including that in there.
I
Because
think so. If we can just acknowledge that, you're right. There's kind of a standard that people who are aware of this topic, they know that you run the heater for a few minutes when you need to. Same thing in the summertime. If it's 90 degrees outside, you run the air conditioning when you need to, but just don't have it on all the time. So I'll have a conversation with Janie and kind of make my suggestions to her. And I guess I would encourage the rest of you to do that too. Chase, is this in your hands right now, or is Janie going to revise anything with this before we go ahead?
I've taken notes as you've discussed. If you want, we can compile all the comments that you guys have. I can send a email to Janie for her consideration, and then we can move forward with that draft then.
Yeah, if you would just include me on that email, and then yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't want to put words into her mouth, but I also just want to use a lot of caution about how we pick our language. Hope, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was like a certain way that we were trying to enforce this, or if this was just a recommendation, just because since I'm at the high school, I know a lot of like parents and both students, like they just leave their car on all the time and they don't either seem to know or seem to care. So I don't know, just kind of maybe putting out more about the real effects of idling and trying to get people more on the same page, because I just feel like a lot of people are misinformed about the consequences. So I think that's a really big part of it.
Yep, and I will say that the goal up till now has been education and trying to get people to buy in voluntarily. There's not an enforcement mechanism. We're not doing anything like that. But I do think the more that we can have these opportunities, these conversations, to maybe just get some people to rethink their habits, getting information in front of them about the dangers of the exhaust fumes and the fact that children are susceptible to a lot of these things. Yeah, we're looking for ideas for ways to do this better. And this newsletter is meant to be one thing. By sending it, by mentioning the superintendents of the school districts. We've talked to both De Pere Unified and West De Pere, and they are in support of this. And then the idea is, how do we get that support to trickle down into action steps and education and getting our message out there? Anybody else? Any suggestions or comments? All right. Item 5, clean air update. Number 6, Betty, do you want to tell us a little bit about the social media update? You did include a calendar, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, so just trying to finish up the Meet the Commissioners that I started actually quite a while ago. Do have a couple of them still outstanding. So following this meeting, this week we'll do a meeting recap. Will you plan to do that one, Alderperson Quigley? Okay. And
yes,
then looking to, our next one would be Commissioner Lawton for Meet the Commissioner, if he wants to be included and featured in that. If you could just get back to me with his responses, and I can resend those out if you need them.
Didn't I send you something?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Didn't I send you something in December, mid-December?
I did not receive it. So if you do have it completed, if you could resend it to me, but I didn't receive it.
I'll go find what I did. I know I spent quite a bit of time on it, so.
Okay, that would be great. And then
Awesome.
I would do Commissioner Weber after that if she wants to be featured. And then we would do Advisor Dragseth. If we do get another teen advisor, we would do them then the following week and then another meeting recap. So I am looking for somebody that maybe wants to volunteer to do a social media post, just the content, topic of their choice for the end of February going into early March, and then another one at the end of March.
Anybody got a topic that they're excited to talk about, share? It can be just a couple of lines or, you know, a paragraph or two. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But the more things we can do to get our Sustainability Commission social media presence out there would be helpful.
I'll
And
do
if you
one.
don't want to volunteer, okay, thank you. Emily, right?
Yep.
Okay. And again, you don't have to wait for the next meeting. So if anybody gets something that a great idea, you can send an email to Betty at any time and let her know that you want to do. And then Betty, my next suggestion with this, I think this Meet the Commissioner series has been helpful because sometimes it is hard to fill up a social media post every week. What would you think, or what would the commission think about maybe going through the list again, and instead of Meet the Commissioner, it can be each individual commissioner does one. What are one or two sustainable things that you do around your house, you know, or in your life that are meaningful to you? Because again, I'm worried about, we're always talking about these huge complex issues that nobody seems like they can do anything about. And so if there were some social media posts that say, hey, you know what, here's a simple thing, you know, with regards to recycling, or with regards to, I just found out something recently, again, I got to apologize to Scott, but when I recycle cardboard, I'm supposed to cut it up into smaller digestible chunks. And sometimes I put my refrigerator sized boxes in there. So, you know, even though I've been doing this for a while, you learn stuff every now and then. And I think that might be another way to use social media to just get the message out there and have conversations. Anybody else, any comments or suggestions regard to our social media?
Yeah, I don't know. Emily volunteered. Did you want to do? Don't have to do both of them, obviously. Did you want to do just the first one?
Yeah, I can do the first one. March 1. I'll figure out something that's important.
I'll take the other one, Commissioner Slavin.
Thank you.
March
You bet.
29th. Okay, thanks. And then everybody, you can kind of be thinking in the back of your mind if there's something else you would do for an upcoming post. All right, thanks for that, everybody. Next on the agenda is future agenda items, and I would encourage, again, for our newest commissioners, but everybody, this is kind of where we can shape the conversation of what do you want to do going forward. As a commission, we can't really just kind of talk about anything we want to, but once we put it on the agenda and it becomes a discussion, then that might turn into actionable stuff. So if anybody has anything they'd like to see us discuss, Chase or Betty, you have that we're going to talk about the clean energy work plan at the next meeting. Is that correct? Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
And this is more for our new commissioners. You don't have to have an item tonight, but if there's something, for example, you want to see in an upcoming agenda, something comes up, just email Chase and Betty on that and just say, hey, I'd like to talk. And I'll pick on Corey. He's here because I think that's one of the commissioners, you know, shot an email. For example, I'd like to bring Corey in for a presentation. So we put him on the agenda. So, you know, so something comes up in the next couple of weeks or whatever in the future, you know, emailing is a good way to, you know, get that stuff on the agenda.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, in the area of future agenda items, I would like to see something on there about the frequency of doing this kind of virtual meeting, because it's great that we can do it tonight because of the weather, but I also think it would send a really nice message. I was thinking about this. We had a recent council meeting where there were like 2 agenda items and everybody showed up and then we left, before the car had cooled down. We don't need to meet face to face every single month. And so if it's every other or every third or fourth month, if we can do a virtual meeting and kind of model for the citizens of De Pere, I have to admit I've biked from my house to City Hall exactly once in my 3 years as commissioner. So I'm of a certain age and certain health where I don't get around as quickly as I might want to. But to me, this is good to just not have to go out into the winter's night, but also not to whatever. If we could have a discussion about what would be a good frequency for virtual meetings. Does that make sense? Okay. Last call then. Anything else that commission members would like to see on future agenda items? Oops, and I see Chase has got his hand up. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you there. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. In the background, we are working with our legal team to discuss the stormwater art project that was, I think, last discussed in October. So I'm hoping to bring that here in one of the next meetings, just to maybe get that kicked off with definitely De Pere or another De Pere organization.
Yep, very good. And Hope,
Can I add something to that quick? Because that was what I was going to add.
Yeah, you're about the stormwater thing. Then let's go to Emily first, please.
Sorry. I have gotten in contact with Fox Wolf about that, too, just to see how we can partner, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with them. So.
And was that an organization, or who did you say you've been in contact with?
I muted too fast. The Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance, there's someone with Noosk there, which we're a city partner and all.
Right. Okay. Just for clarity, just for my own brain with what's going on. And then Hope, go ahead. Anything you wanted to add, either for new agenda items or anything else?
Yeah, just kind of going back to the no idling thing. We were talking about more trying to bring more education into that, and I know that I think a big part of the people we could start educating is the students, specifically at high schools. And since I know I have connections at the high school, and I also have an environmental club at the high school, if we wanted to do anything with that, with putting posters up inside the school and trying to get teenagers to be more aware of this, I feel like that would also be very beneficial.
Agreed. Yep. And again, I guess we could put that as an agenda item because we are going to have to go back and visit that Clean Air Initiative. I can tell you that at first there was a subgroup working on this, and I think the intention was to focus on elementary schools at first because we could get to the parents directly through email and things like that. But the idea of turning to high school kids that are drivers, absolutely. I think that's a good next direction to go. Thank you for that suggestion. All right. And again, thanks to everybody for your time and your energy tonight. I think we're going to wrap things up here. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn from anyone that feels so inclined.
I move to adjourn.
There we go. We've got a motion, and then I need a second, please.
Second.
You can all leave your microphones on because we're getting to the point where we are going to vote again. We have a motion and a second. And so with that, I wish you all a good evening. And all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Thank you. The motion carries, and we are adjourned.